democracy and lack of voice. Leaders are not accountable, and voters rightly feel their choices are limited, all while the rich keep getting richer and regular people scramble to survive. In advanced democracies around the world, a growing number of people aren't even bothering to vote, a right many people fought and died for fairly recently. Most Americans will say that they live in a democracy, but few will say that they trust the government, while the state generally inspires negative reactions ranging from frustration to contempt and suspicion. The situation calls to mind Jean-Jacques Rousseau's observation from The Social Contract. In a well-ordered city, every man flies to the assemblies. Under a bad government, no one cares to stir a step to get to them. As soon as any man says of the state, "What does it matter to me?" the state may be given up for lost. A cauldron of causes generates an atmosphere of corrosive cynicism, social fragmentation, and unease, with blame too often directed downward at the most vulnerable populations. And it's not just in the United States. Consider the United Kingdom vote to leave the European Union, the decision known as Brexit, the resurgence of right-wing populism across Europe, coups and reactionary electoral victories in Brazil, and the rise of fascism in India. Plato's warning about democracy devolving into tyranny rings chillingly prophetic. The promise of self-rule risks becoming not a promise, but a curse, a self-destructive motor pushing toward destinations more volatile, divided, despotic, and mean. But this book isn't about the pitfalls of popular sovereignty, though it certainly has its perils. Nor is it about the shortcomings of current liberal democratic political systems or the ways they have been corrupted by money and power, though they have been. That's a story that's been told before, and while it will be the backdrop to my inquiry, it is not the focus. This book, instead, is an invitation to think about the word democracy from various angles, looking back through history and reflecting on the philosophy and practice of self-rule in hopes that a more contemplative view will shed useful light on our present predicament. My goal is not to negate the sense of alarm nor deter people from action, but to remind us that we are part of a long, complex, and still unfolding chronicle, whatever the day's headlines might be or whoever governs the country. Taking a more theoretical approach to democracy's winding, thorny path and inherently paradoxical nature can also provide solace and reassurance. Ruling ourselves has never been straightforward and never will be. Ever vexing and unpredictable, democracy is a process that involves endless reassessment and renewal, not an end point we reach before taking a rest, leaving us with a finished system to tweak at the margins. As such, this book is my admittedly unorthodox, idiosyncratic call to democratize society from the bottom to the top. It is also an expression of my belief that we cannot rethink democracy if we haven't really thought about it in the first place. One thing I've learned is that the people who are most averse to deepening democracy know exactly why they despise it. Plato, who helped invent political philosophy by railing against democracy, arguably began the trend. A political science major told me that she doesn't value democracy much. "The phrase that inspires me," she said, "is the American dream and that ability to climb." Opportunity mattered to her and her friends more than inclusion. I expected them to see democracy and capitalism as mutually reinforcing. Instead, they perceived the two to be at odds in key respects. Democratic demands, whether for progressive taxation or for liberal immigration policies, would diminish their social and economic distinction. "In capitalism, there are going to be people at the bottom," one young man enthused, confident of his place at the top and cognizant that his position was anti-democratic. Members of a privileged economic minority, these students recognized that the impediments to popular sovereignty, such as the Electoral College, which handed 2 of the last 5 presidential elections to a candidate who had lost the popular vote, were necessary for the continued dominance of their class. James Madison had as much in mind when he promoted the idea that the Senate should protect the invaluable interests of opulent landlords against expropriation by the more numerous masses. As much as I disagree with the student